Thank you for carrying.
A moment ago, as Sherry was beginning the final blessings before we put the Torah in the ark, Bernie Rabinowitz stepped over to me and said, "You see, you have a lot of papers there. I hope you're not going to talk too long." And I told Bernie this is the first time I've delivered a sermon that I didn't time it in advance. Sit back. John F. Kennedy said, "For time and the world do not stand still. Change is the law of life, and those who look to the past or the present are certain to miss the future." Justice Brandeis said, "If we desire respect for the law, we must first make the law respectable." Benjamin Franklin wrote, "Laws too gentle are seldom obeyed, too severe seldom executed." And then there are the words of noted attorney Clarence Darrow, "The trouble with law is lawyers." As a lawyer, you would think that I would find it easy to pick a law from Parshat Mishpatim and expand on it from a legal perspective. Not so much, mainly because a lengthy discussion of the difference between murder and manslaughter and the mens rea doctrine of criminal intent might not be of great interest, even though the first part of Parshat Mishpatim does in fact discuss capital offenses and the difference in punishment for intentional homicide and unintentional homicide. And Mishpatim does relate to our modern judicial system. We are, for example, all familiar with a phrase I mentioned in introducing the Torah reading this morning, an eye for an eye. The more complete text is an eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise. But the commentary in the Eitz Chaim Chumash makes it quite clear these words are not to be taken literally, but rather are to be interpreted in the context of other laws set out, and that the value of the loss is to be compensated to the person damaged. This is what our modern-day tort system, the system of recovery for personal injuries, is all about, and what the seeming barrage of TV ads by certain lawyers promotes. Don't expect to see or hear me in one of those commercials. We also read of fairness in judicial proceedings in today's Torah reading. We are told, "You shall neither side with the mighty to do wrong, you shall not give perverse testimony in a dispute, so as to pervert it in favor of the mighty. Nor, however, shall you show deference to a poor man in his dispute." There are also laws to respect those less fortunate. You shall not ill-treat any widow or orphan, for example. And 6 years you shall sow your land and gather its yield, but in the 7th year you shall let it rest and lie fallow. Let the needy among your people eat of it. You shall do the same with your vineyards and your olive groves. And this last verse reminded me of the words of George Washington, whose 293rd birthday would have been today. The government of the United States, which gives bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance, requires only that they who live under its protection should demean themselves as good citizens in giving it on all occasions their effectual support. May the children of the stock of Abraham who dwell in this land continue to merit and enjoy the goodwill of the other inhabitants, while everyone shall sit in safety under his own vine and fig tree, and there shall be none to make him afraid. Words of our first president in a 1790 letter to the Hebrew congregation of Newport, Rhode Island, the Touro Synagogue. And words which I submit are also cautionary of anti-Semitism. Since the horrific events of October 7, there has been a dramatic increase in anti-Semitic incidents in our country, in Europe, and worldwide. The ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, reported a 200% increase in anti-Semitic incidents in the United States in the year following October 7. Hillel International tracked 1,048 anti-Semitic incidents on college campuses from July of last year through January of this year. 1,048, almost 5 per day. And in its 2024 State of Anti-Semitism in America report, issued last week, the American Jewish Committee stated that for the first time in the history of its annual reporting, a majority of American Jews reported changing their behavior out of a fear of anti-Semitism. The AJC report says that 1/3 of American Jews say they have been a personal target of anti-Semitism, primarily either through an in-person remark, an online posting, or through social media, or finding a flyer or pamphlet on their property. And such flyers were distributed here in several San Antonio neighborhoods over the last 12 to 24 months. The AJC report also validates the data from Hillel International by finding that 35% of Jewish college students say they have been the target of anti-Semitism at least once during their time on campus, and 48% said that they have felt uncomfortable or unsafe at a campus event because they are Jewish. The AJC report notes that online and social media continue to be the place where American Jews experience anti-Semitism the most. No doubt the recent changes on X and Facebook related to no longer policing content have a great contribution to that finding. The situation in Europe is similar. Last month, Rabbi Menachem Margolin, chair of the European Jewish Association, said some 40,000 Jews had left Europe in recent years with no intention of returning as a result of anti-Semitic sentiment. Rabbi Margolin lamented the failure of European governments to move beyond just verbal condemnation of anti-Semitic behavior and its failure to take effective action to ensure the safety of Jewish institutions and Jews practicing religious customs. He called for authorities to establish a code of conduct by which demonstrations against Israel don't devolve into anti-Semitic actions, and for strong and swift punishment of individuals found guilty of anti-Semitic acts. The American Jewish Committee report noted that more than half of the Americans who were the personal target of anti-Semitism did not report the incident to authorities because they didn't think anything would be done. I hope they were wrong. As San Antonio Police Chief William McManus has repeatedly said, if you see something, say something. As in addition to its ongoing education programs for middle and high school students, the San Antonio Holocaust Memorial Museum provides Holocaust education to San Antonio City Police cadets and to Bexar County Sheriff's cadets. Over 500 cadets per year, Museum Director Leslie Met told me a few days ago. And they have an interactive curriculum customized for law enforcement training, education about hate, about bigotry, about anti-Semitism, and about appropriate law enforcement response. In addition to the programs of the Holocaust Memorial Museum, the Jewish Community Relations Council of the Jewish Federation of San Antonio is a community-wide resource that educates and advocates about anti-Semitism and confronts anti-Semitism in San Antonio. This coming Wednesday, February 26th, the JCRC is hosting a program entitled Why Do They Hate Us? Navigating Anti-Semitism Tools for Parents and Educators. This program is to focus on how to provide practical tools for navigating challenging social encounters in schools and in online spaces. There's a link on the Federation's website for the JCRC to register for this program, as well as a link where local anti-Semitic incidents can be reported. If you see something, say something. On March 6th, here at Agudas Achim, the Jewish Federation is hosting a global anti-Semitism forum a moderated conversation with the consuls general of Germany, Greece, Israel, and Ukraine. I urge you to register by attending to the Federation website after Shabbat and find the link to do so. We all need to speak up. Holly Huffnagel, AJC's U.S. Director for Combating Anti-Semitism, in their report writes, more people are aware of anti-Semitism as a societal problem. The vast majority of U.S. adults believe that anti-Semitism affects society as a whole, and everyone is responsible for countering it. She adds, a whole of society problem necessitates a whole of society approach. We need everyone to recognize that they can no longer stand on the sidelines. Last week, on February 13, Senators Jackie Rosen of Nevada and Tim Scott of South Carolina reintroduced the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act in the U.S. Senate. Among the 34 co-sponsors of this bipartisan Senate legislation is Senator John Cornyn. Among other things, the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act directs the Department of Education to use the broad definition of anti-Semitism adopted by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance as the definition of anti-Semitism when investigating anti-Semitic acts on campus. The act also provides concrete examples to help distinguish between constitutionally protected speech and targeted attacks against Jews. A companion bill has been reintroduced in the House of Representatives, also on a bipartisan basis. I hope for prompt action to pass this federal legislation in order to, as ADL CEO Jonathan Greenblatt said, quote, to send a powerful message that combating anti-Semitism remains a national priority, close quote. Shabbat Shalom.